Yes.
Yeah, we are back in open session. I would like to report that no actions or votes were taken during executive session. We'll move into new business 7G, and I will move resolution 1. Resolution 12-19-23-15, County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency Board of Directors meeting. Whereas the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency wishes to contract with Mark Geis to serve as the Chief Executive Officer of the Chautauqua County IDA at an annual amount of $54,301 payable in equal biweekly installments, plus a mileage allowance of $1,000 per month and reimbursement for gasoline used while driving for work. Whereas the CCIDA employees are working together in an effort to promote economic development, and whereas the CCIDA and employee agree that services will be performed during the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the chairman is hereby authorized by the Board of Directors to sign any and all other documents necessary in order to effect the above. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe. Dan Demart.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
The resolution is unanimously passed. On behalf, well,
Sorry, Mark, you're bound.
we thank you. The board, we took our time, we wanted to discuss it. But we really appreciate what you're doing. It's phenomenal work. It's kind of drug on a little bit because we get to talking about all that the whole staff has done. We know it's not just you, it's the whole staff. We only directly affect your pay, but what you do for the county is amazing. And it shows in your so many different times. There's things that come up and, you know, you'll talk to me or you'll mention something. You're thinking way ahead. You're not waiting until there's a problem and there's some huge thing. You're thinking ahead. You're going to see what's going to be best for the county, how we can best help. And so you're just so involved. And then we also discussed the way you work with the staff is amazing. And so it's a team effort, you know, and so it's a pleasure as a board to show up and see how well everything's put together, how well the whole staff is done. You all work as a team and it's a pleasure to be a part of. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, no. Oops. I really appreciate it. I mean, it really is. It's so complicated what we do. And there's just so many moving parts and so many people involved. I was sort of thinking about my father was a music director and he directed musicals. And, you know, I was just thinking about that, like all the different moving parts, all the different actors, all the different, you know, personalities and all that. And that's really what this is about. It's sort of like you got this great team and everyone's doing their part and just trying to create a place where people are proud to be a part of and want, you know, and enjoy their job. I know we don't always enjoy it, but for the most part, I think we all take pride in creating that culture of excellence is what we're striving for. So, and it takes the entire team. So thank you so much for having faith in me and the whole team. Appreciate it.
Did we have any old business to come before the board? Hearing none, we'll adjourn the meeting and our next meeting will be January the 23rd. Just a reminder, it'll be at 10:30 and we'll be meeting here again. We'll go ahead and move right into CREDC. So the Board of Directors for the Chautauqua Region Economic Development Corporation, we're meeting at the BWB building. We're streamed on both YouTube and Zoom. It's December the 19th, and it's currently 11:17. We'll go ahead and do roll call. Gary Henry's here. Brad Walters.
Here.
Dan Hetzenrader. Here. Stephen Thorpe. Dan Demart. Here. Amy Harding.
Here.
Kevin Muldowney.
Here.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Here.
Thank you. You should have already received the minutes from November 28th. Had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Make the motion.
Thank you, Kevin. Do we have a second? Amy, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. We'll move right into new business A1. Mark, are you gonna?
Yeah, I'll
over.
present this. Nate's on vacation, well-deserved vacation, by the way.
Yes.
This resolution allows CREDC to enter into an agreement with local foundations and the county to receive funding to keep our operations going. And, you know, I know you all know this because we've been keeping you up to date. But, you know, the partnership has done a lot of really good work. And it sort of fills a niche that has been needed for a long time. And I think the primary one is that it assists communities that don't have the resources and the skill set really to, you know, to put projects together and get the funding and you know, make them happen. So so there's, you know, three staff for the partnership, full-time staff. And so we get our money from the Ralph Wilson Foundation. We got $1.05 million, I think, over 3 years. And then the local foundations that support us, and that's what this resolution is about, is Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation. It's been a great partner. $100,000 a year they've been giving us. Primarily Nate gives them quarterly updates on what we're doing and where we're at, and they like what we're doing. The Gebby Foundation is really, they're supporting us to the tune of $80,000. And a lot of that has to do with the work we're doing down on the Chattacoin River. With the, you know, we did a conceptual plan, identified projects, fleshed them out, went for funding, got 2 different grants, over $1 million. So there's a lot of projects that are gonna occur down there. $50,000 from the county for really our placemaking work group. And it's really for projects that align with our economic development strategy and placemaking. Just real quick, is how do we make places that people wanna live in or visit? Those are our main streets. Those are creating, you know, hooks, you know, where people really want it, that are memorable, that you know, with walkable communities, that kind of stuff. $35,000 from the county for Greenway Development Program. We hired Jacob Bodway part-time, and we're doing a lot of work with the trail groups. There's about a dozen of them, equestrian folks and the snowmobile people and hikers and cross-country skiers, all that. We sort of have them working all together now. We're trying to really identify projects. There's really power in numbers, and by having everyone work together versus in their own silos really makes a lot of sense, especially because they share a lot of the same infrastructure. So that's for Greenway planning. And we did a Greenway plan, by the way, back in 2013. And it talked about the types of projects that we need to do, which we've done several of them, and also creating this Greenway group. And so we've done that now. And then also $63,000 from the ARPA money, and that's for infrastructure development. We really want to set ourselves up, queue up projects to apply for the federal infrastructure money. The money's out there, but you can't just ask for it, right? You got to really have projects put together. So we're going to contract with an engineering firm, and we're going to go through a process where we really identify infrastructure projects that will result in more economic development. And then really, again, flesh those out, queue those up so we can apply for this federal funding. And so I think that is it. Yeah, so those are the funding sources and sort of where that money goes, what uses it has.
Were there any questions? Dan Hetzenrader, can you move new business A1 for us?
Gladly. Resolution 12-19-23-16 of the members of the Chautauqua Region Economic Development Corporation approving entry into agreement with Chautauqua County and local foundations for grant funding for the Chautauqua County Partnership for Economic Growth.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sagan. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe. Dan Demart.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
And the resolution is passed. Certainly, it is amazing all that Nate is able to do with getting all these grants and just the way we're able to continue to help the region. We'll move into new business B, and this is pretty similar to what you've already explained.
Exact same resolution that the IDA passed, correct?
So this is just, again, with the banks. Did anybody have any questions? Steve, can you move resolution B1 for us?
Region economic development regarding deposits of money and investment funds.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Brad. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe. Dan Demart.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. We'll get to vote on it one more time here in a minute. Did we have an executive director?
So again, I just wanted to reiterate that in January, we'll be giving, I don't know if Nate's gonna do a partnership for economic growth or if I am, I don't know that yet, but we'll be developing annual reports for both the IDA and the partnership, and we'll sort of talk through at a high level, our accomplishments for the year at the January meeting. And then you'll all get copies of that report, and we'll also give it to the legislators and other key stakeholders.
Thank you. Do we have a treasurer's report?
Yellow?
Okay, so I tried to do this a little differently this month. I'm gonna hope this works out. Up at the top, I have kind of highlighted green, so it's slightly different, green and red. Merry Christmas.
You might have to all find it there. Let's see. Right
It's
there?
right
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's after the.
All right, it's after the IDA, okay,
That's
after the blue.
Mhm. For the balance sheet, CPEG is highlighted green. And down below, I have a little note, the variation there with the negative liability is just the rent and professional fees. And other charges for December that was printed in November. It doesn't go onto our books, so that's why it shows until December, so that's why it shows the negative. Same thing with the Greenway development. And the Ralph Wilson Small Business Marketing Fund, 74. Per the contract, reading my notes. Spent more revenue than received in order to receive the final revenue payment. So
We
have to-
actually, the award we got from Ralph Wilson was like for 250,000, but it had to be over 2 years. So we got that first tranche, but we actually funded all of the projects. And so when we get that second tranche, then that'll make that negative number a positive number.
And the second tranche will be next year.
Yes.
Yeah, so I better fully explain that in the profit and loss on the following page. Yeah, the first revenue payment of 158,000 in 2023, and we'll receive the remaining 100,000 in 2024. So we just officially spent all of the money. And everyone else is doing good. CPEG still has excess revenue, which is great. Finally, there's been quite a few years where they've been in the red. CREDC is doing great. And everyone else will either zero out or pull from what they have reserved in their deferred revenue, or put what excess back into their deferred revenue to use for the following month or the following year, depending on the contract. So don't have anything else to report as far as that goes. And I also did do an attempt at, I don't think I'll do this every month because unless it's requested, which I will. But it's a lot. There's a ton of funds and they're just adding more funds. And in order to show an accurate current versus year-to-date budget and the variances, it's multiple pages, and I just don't know if it's necessary for everyone, if you want to see it every month. If you do, that's fine. So maybe you guys could give me a little feedback on that afterwards. But it starts with CREDC. And I made a little note off to the side that with the deferred revenue, that revenue actually equals over $1,160,000. So the variance isn't that great. We just put it in deferred because you don't need it all hanging out in revenue. And everything else we're under budget on. The next page, or the next page is CCIDA. And we're still under budget for revenue. We haven't quite gotten all of what we were expecting yet. Some of that is hanging out in. No, that's right. CPAG doesn't make different revenue. We are under budget and over budget on a few things, but also some of that could be an improperly listed or how we group it on the budget versus actual. Some things we might have lumped together that don't necessarily need to be lumped together, should be lumped in a different, and so the budget is accounting for that in a different area. I'll make sure that I go through that at the beginning of the year with Crystal to make sure that everything's being listed properly. But regardless, the revenue over expense is still good. Sorry about the blank page. And the following page is the Ralph Wilson. And some of that under budget revenue is hanging out in deferred. And we are a little over budget on the payroll and benefits. And again, I believe there might be a line item that's listed in payroll and benefits that may not need to be listed in payroll and benefits. So the budget didn't account for that. Or we just ended up spending more with the authorization of Ralph Wilson Foundation. They have more strict guidelines that we adhere to, and we report to them quarterly. So nothing big to report there. The professional fees, I think that's just because we just didn't list specifically a budget for professional fees, but there's a bunch hanging out in publicity and promotion that might apply to the professional fees. For the Chattaquin River, we are under budget, but we do have some deferred hanging out, so technically we're not under budget as far as the revenue goes. We are slightly over budget for payroll and benefits, but also I believe there was an adjustment mid-year with Christy Kathman. The Chattaquin River pays for her salary and payroll benefits, and we did an adjustment mid-year with authorization from the Chattaquin River in order to do that. So, but it just wasn't amended in the budget section to increase her salary and to increase her hourly as well. For CCPEG ARPA, we're good here. Again, we budgeted quite a large amount in other expenses and we didn't put anything in professional fees. I think that's just a mismatch of line items. And CPAC ARPA does have over 215,000 in deferred revenue. So we're not too far off as far as the year-to-date budget goes for that. For trails on the next page, we're under budget with some hanging out in deferred revenue. So actually, if you total those two up, they're over budget as far as revenue goes. And again, we just listed budgeted expenses into other expense, whereas it's being applied in different line items. For Greenway. Same similar things. We're actually over budget for the revenue. Greenway got additional funding from. I made note of this, I'm sorry, and I forgot to bring it up with me. I'll spell this out in the next meeting. They got additional Greenway funding from other sources, revenue sources, and I'll let you guys know where those came from. I wrote that down. I must have. That's downstairs. My apologies.
From the reserve? Occupancy tax reserve?
Yes, some from there, but it was a whole slew, and I apologize. I had notes all written out, and I must have forgotten to bring them up. Those for Chadwick Bay. We're under budget in revenue and over budget in expense, so it kind of all balances out. Special tourism marketing. Again, we're going to get the excuse me, they have deferred revenue, so we're not really under budget in the revenue there. And we just lumped all of the expenses in budget line item as other expense, so it all balances out there in the total expense. And then Ralph Wilson, small business marketing. We actually didn't put a budget in for this one because I think it was so new in the beginning of the year. We weren't sure when everything was going to settle. Like Mark had said, we received the first 158,000 and we'll get the next 100,000 next year, but we've already spent down every cent of it. So besides the additional funding for the Green Bay development, which I'll fill you guys in on, is this something that you want to keep going with every month? Kind of a mouthful.
We'll talk to Sagan about it.
I mean, that's one of the, the challenges when you get funding, grant funding, or get funding from another source, you got to track it all. And so it creates sort of a, it's great because it's free money, but there's a lot having to do with tracking it and reporting. And so thanks for all that, Kayla and Crystal and others.
Yeah, it's great. to Get all those grants, but it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Thank you, Sagan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's report has been accepted. Do you have any old business to come before CREDC? Hearing none, we'll consider the meeting adjourned. We'll move right into the CRC Board of Directors meeting, still at the BWB building, still live streamed via YouTube and Zoom. It is December 19th and it is now 11:37. We'll go ahead and do roll call. Gary Henry's here. Brad Walters.
Here.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Here.
Stephen Thorpe.
Here.
Dan DeMart.
Here.
Amy Harding.
Here.
Kevin Muldowney.
Here.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Here.
You should have already received the minutes from October 24th, had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Brad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been accepted. We have new business 3A, which is another banking resolution similar to the two that we have already reviewed. But did anybody have any questions for Rich?
Exactly the same.
Hearing none. Steve, could you move new business A1 for us?
Resolution 12-19-23-18 of the Chautauqua County Capital Resource Corporation regarding deposits of money and the investment of funds.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brad. Do roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenreiter.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe. Dan Demart.
Aye.
Amy Harding.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
And the resolution has been approved. I have a treasurer's report.
No activities in the CRC this year and none for to see in the near future. Bond market here is pretty soft.
Yeah.
So with interest rates high, we certainly aren't gonna see a lot of refinancing.
Yeah.
So new issues are the same.
Okay, so the meeting is adjourned. We thank everybody for coming and happy holiday.
Happy holiday.